Hello, my name is Tommy, and today we're talking about bond polarity. So looking at this problem, which bond is the most polar? So we have a variety of different bonds, and we have a table giving us the electronegativity of each element, as well as an excerpt from the periodic table. So let's go through these first. I'm going to skip A, but because it's not in the electronegativity table. So with sodium lithium, sodium has an electronegativity of 0.9 and lithium has an electronegativity of 1.0. So that's going to have only a bond polarity of, the difference is going to be 0.1, so it's not going to be very polar. For lithium fluorine, the difference is going to be 4.0 and 1.0, and that's going to be a whopping 3. For magnesium lithium, it's the difference for 1.3 and 1.0, so we're going to get about 0.3, so not that much again. So C looks very promising, but we have not looked at K yet. So this is where the excerpt from the periodic table comes in. So we see that K is below sodium on the periodic table and below lithium. So what we can assume is that it's less electronegative than lithium. Now this may sound like it's not going to cause more polarity, but since we're looking for the difference and not more electronegativity, being less electronegative actually makes the bond more polar, because it's not going to be 1.0 minus 4, it's going to be 0.7 or 0.8 minus 4, which causes a slightly greater polarity. So our answer would be A. So in this problem we have to figure out which bond is the most polar, or at least probably the most polar, because it might vary in between these. But we have to learn about covalent and ionic bonds. So an ionic bond is mostly formed between nonmetals and metals and is very, very polar. And covalent is mostly formed between a nonmetal and a nonmetal. So what we're looking for is the more polar of the two. So a metal and a metal makes a metallic bond, and that's not really as polar as nonmetal metal like an ionic. Nonmetal, nonmetal, that's covalent like I said before, and it's not very polar because they're very nearby to each other. Metalloid and nonmetal, it's very close to being as extreme as metal and nonmetal, but metalloid is not as much of a metal. So our answer is D, nonmetal metal, because it represents an ionic bond, and ionic bonds are by far the most polar.